Shri Vallabhadhish ki jai ho. Shri Hari Rai Ji's Bade Shiksha Patr, letter number 1, verse 5, continuing from yesterday. In the same way that one should dispose of anything unfavourable in the Lord's service, one should abandon one's partner if they oppose it. One should not covet wealth, but if you have it, use it wisely as an asset, just to improve one's service to the Lord. Protect it only as such an asset, favourable to the Lord's service. Tika. Renounce your spouse if he or she presents an obstruction to your service to the Lord, and do not maintain affection for them. In fact, anything that is not related to the Lord should be renounced. If your spouse has not made a connection to the Lord, you should help them to relate their mind and heart to the Lord's love. In this path of grace, only a person who has surrendered to initiation from a descendant of Sri Vallabhacharyaji, and who thereafter maintains the appropriate rules of conduct, may touch and serve the Lord. They might have been initiated but do not respect the rules of service, so allow them only to do the outer acts, and if they obstruct your service, renounce them immediately. Do not be attached to wealth and do not be tainted by desire for it. Ultimately, don't make huge efforts to earn and then protect it. This is a very wicked age of struggle, in which an embodied soul very quickly loses devotional fortitude. If you don't protect your wealth, it will soon disappear, which will make you impatient, weak, and sad, which is not appropriate. Don't protect your wealth for the sake of your own happiness. Recognize it to be the Lord's property and protect it for his service alone. If your heart is totally renounced, you will not want to be guarding wealth. But if your heart's renunciation is not total, guard it for the sake of the Lord's service and use it to observe celebrations and other activities within this path of devotion. If you do not use your wealth in the Lord's service, but only in mundane matters, or if your mind becomes very attached to it and so does not facilitate the celebration of festivals or donation to your spiritual teacher, Sri Acharyaji's lineage, or helping fellow devotees, then your nature will become aspiritual and ungodly. Therefore, keeping your mind detached to guard your wealth for the sake of serving the Lord and your spiritual teacher. When a devotee develops such wisdom in their way of life, then love for the Lord soon establishes itself in their heart. Verse 6. Your consciousness should be that you are marrying and performing other seemingly worldly activities for the sake of serving the Lord. Associate with other devotees of the Lord in order to hear and speak of the pastimes of Sri Krishna, who is more beloved than even life itself. Tika. In the above passage, the teaching was not to use one's wealth for worldly matters, but how can one perform marriage or other necessary worldly matters without using money? Here it is explained that such matters as one's marriage or one's children's marriage should be considered in terms of how they relate to serving the Lord, and seen as opportunities to bring additional members into his service so that it can flourish. Take the Lord's permission for such acts and spend only as much as is absolutely necessary, thus developing your attitude and activities as the Lord's servant. Have the association of accomplished devotees, but never selfishly for a worldly or scriptural purpose. Such association is solely for the purpose of hearing and recounting your beloved Lord's pastimes. So make a point of having their association without any other ambition or need for self-promotion. Any activity on the devotional plane must be selfless and humble. Know this to be your correct and righteous path. Verse 7. In your personal temple space within the house, when you are not directly engaged in serving the Lord, you should experience the devotional mood of separation from him, as did the gopis expressed in the song of the flute, Venugit, and their song in pairs of verses, Yugalgit, etc. You should know that the Sri Krishna whom you serve is actually Sri Krishna himself. Knowing this, you will directly experience the Supreme Lord close to you. Until you have this experience, cherish devotional sentiment and keep the appropriate rules of service. Tika. When you are directly serving the Lord, you will be experiencing the blissful mood of togetherness with him. When you are offering him foodstuffs and garments, you should try to understand the deeper meaning of this. When you have completed your daily service or taken an interval therein, you should then be experiencing the mood of separation from him, just like the gopis of Vrindavan in their Gopi Gita and Venu Gita, in which they ponder, where would the Lord be now? How is he playing right now with his beloved devotees? When you recall his pastimes in this way, you may become agitated and think, "Oh, I am very impure and foolish, and that is why he doesn't stay with me." Sri Gosaiji has written this verse on this subject. My heart, speech, body, and actions are all impure. My shortcomings are innumerable, and I cannot fathom them. Analysis of this verse. My mind and heart are impure, and so are my speech, actions, knowledge, and worship. In fact, I am totally impure. I have no purity, so my offences must be innumerable. You should feel separation from the Lord with this kind of humility. When it is time to enter into his service, quickly bathe and enter the temple area, keeping appropriate rules of cleanliness. Having the bliss of seeing his form and his love-formed face and body. At this moment all the sadness of separation falls away. So have his sight in a loving mood. Remember how the gopis would go to Sri Nanda Baba's house. To go to Sri Nanda Baba's house to catch a glimpse of the beloved Lord. With the grace of those gopis you will be also filled with loving sentiment for him. Verse 8. Touch the Lord. Touch the form of your Lord with your heart full of love and perform any necessary practice for which you must use your body in the same way and only for him. The experience of the Lord who is full of love alone is through love alone. Tika. When you have the sight of the Lord with the attitude described above, then your eyes and indeed all your senses are satisfied. When you then bathe and make your service, all your senses are employed in it. After completing the Mangala service, waking him in the early morning and serving him breakfast, etc., you should bathe him, dress him according to the season. Whilst thus serving him, touch him with pure love. When your heart is pure, emulate the ways of service of the gopis themselves. Early morning, these ladies of Vraja all come from their homes to Sri Nanda Raiji's house, bringing clothes, jewellery and toys. They bathe Sri Krishna and then dress and adorn him. If your heart is not pure enough to serve in the mood of a gopi, then respectfully regard him as a mighty king and as the Lord of Lords, with fear of making mistakes when serving and thus being punished. In the cold weather, warm your hands before touching him, because his body is so tender. By thus giving heartfelt consideration to his comfort, you will experience such subtle moods within your service relationship to him. Serve him thus from the morning awakening to rest time at night, with all your bodily actions becoming filled with loving purpose. Every last article that you use in your service should be respected, as also embodying the Lord's presence. Nothing should be done without this deep devotional sentiment. When you make your service and at the same time experience the Lord in everything and everyone, then you will know the bliss of his divine form. Aaj ke aanand ki jai ho. सब वैष्णवन को सप्रेम सानंद सादर जय श्री कृष्णा। श्री वल्लभाचार्य जी की जय हो। श्री हरि राय जी की जय हो। जय जय श्री राधे।